Welcome back to Texas Weather Live. I'm Kylie Capps. I am so excited to be joined this afternoon by Aaron Hoot. Aaron is a local arborist here in Dallas, and truly, Aaron, I think that you have one of the coolest jobs. Tell me a little bit about what it is that you do and what your expertise is in.
Well, yeah, being an arborist, my expertise is in trees,
Okay.
specifically the health of trees, the proper care of trees, from watering correctly to fertilizing, doing health treatments, pruning, removals when needed, and planting trees and how to plant them correctly and where to plant them correctly.
Aaron, are you from here?
I'm from Central Texas.
Okay, so you kind of at least had an idea of what does well in our kind of warmer than average, drier than average Central or North Texas climate, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that's kind of what I want to talk about next is as an arborist, you guys refer to the month of October as Oaktober, which I think is so clever and creative. And now that we're officially in the month of October, that is a good sign for a specific type of tree, and that is the oak tree. Talk to me about why that is.
Well, now that we're into October, our typical summer drought is winding down. We're starting usually to get a little bit more rain, even though we have had quite a bit of rain this season. Trees are getting ready to go dormant, starting to change colors, getting that fall color everybody likes, starting to drop their leaves, and providing the benefits that they provide, like food to wildlife and protection from storms that come in the fall.
Yeah, I mean, so important there too, Aaron. And what I think is interesting is we've had a pretty significant stretch over the last couple of weeks, and it looks to continue over the next week, of one, warmer than average high temperatures and kind of drier than average as far as precip is concerned. So what does that mean for oak trees? I know specifically that species is drought tolerant, so they're able to last through the summer months, correct?
Yes, oak trees are very drought tolerant, some more than others, but as a whole, native oak species, they're not new. They know what they're in for. They can handle less water, just like they can sometimes handle more water. They're able to do well during stretches of drought, whereas some tropical and non-native trees that require more water can't handle that. And they have defense mechanisms on how to deal with the stress that that does cause, so that they can stay in good health.
Now, as far as any sort of environmental benefits are concerned, I mean, as a meteorologist, we are constantly focused on what the atmosphere is doing and that how that can impact the environment that we live in on a day to day. So, talk to me about how oak trees are important in that sense.
Oak tree, I mean, there's so many ways. Oak trees are incredibly beneficial. The biggest way is for cleaning our air. Oak trees absorb carbon, they absorb ozone and other particulate matter out of the air, and then provide us with oxygen through photosynthesis. They correct soil ecology by removing pollutants from the soil. They hold our soil in place to prevent erosion, and then providing shade. Trees can reduce the ambient temperature by as much as 10 degrees. Dallas has a huge heat island effect, being that we have such a large, sprawling city. And then when they're in areas shading buildings, you get up to 30% reductions in air conditioning.
Gosh, which is so important, even in the month of October. I mean, it is not unusual for us to be well into the 90s this month. Our record high temperatures for the first week of October still approach 100 degrees. So important to this time of year. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about this stat that I thought was so fascinating. So each oak tree can produce up to 3 million acorns in its lifetime and drop 700,000 leaves per year. So not only does that kind of show just the evolution of the ecosystem, but also, I mean, that's so important for critters that live in the tree or that kind of roam around, right?
Yes, yeah, all of those nuts are getting eaten by different animals. Those leaves are providing shelter for insects and as well as being eaten by the animals. I know most people see them as a nuisance when they're falling in their pools and on their patios and in their gutters. but it really supports an extremely large amount of wildlife in an area where it's harder and harder for our wildlife to find habitat and food.
Yeah, so important, Aaron. Now I want to ask, okay, as someone who doesn't know much about oak trees specifically, or any other plants for that matter, you should see my yard. I do not have a green thumb, but I want to ask you, what are some of the specific species of oak trees that will do well in our Dallas or DFW climates?
Really, any of the native oaks, but the big stars are live oaks, of course, one we're most familiar with. Two that are somewhat less known are chinkapin oaks and bur oaks. Chinkapin oaks have beautiful dark green leaves with tooths on the end of it that are actually the name comes from the origin of the leaves looking kind of like chestnut leaves for those who are from the north and the northeast where they had chestnut trees. The bur oaks have a very big wide lobed leaf, and they produce very large acorns, which is not everybody's cup of tea, but they're fantastic for the wildlife. All of these trees are very drought resistant, very tolerant of different ecosystems and different ecologies and climates, and they're able to handle a lot more stress than other types of trees.
Okay, so I want to ask you now too, Aaron. Not only do oak trees just support this wide range as far as our ecosystem is concerned, but they can live for a really long time. So, what's maybe a tip or a trick that folks can keep them alive for hundreds and hundreds of years? What's one of that main tip that we can focus on, especially as the seasons change?
Probably the biggest one is if you're starting out fresh, think about where you're planting.
Okay.
Try to pick a space that is going to be fitting for the tree's eventual size, not the size it is when you plant it. If it's shoehorned into a small space, it's really going to have to be maintained regularly and pruned regularly to keep it from hitting the house or being too low over the street or anything like that. And that causes stress, and stress is what leads to the decline in all trees. Obviously, watering the correct amount, enough, but also not too much. Too much water is just as bad as not enough water for trees. And then regular fertilization. Trees do remove nutrients from the soil as they're absorbing pollutants and other things. And so you need to return those nutrients to the soil so the tree is well equipped to deal with those stressors we were talking about. As well as maintaining the tree in the light of storm damage, insect populations, fungal spread. There's lots of things that stress out trees. And if you can keep them healthy and not stressed, then they're going to do a lot better.
Aaron Hoot, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon for this edition of Texas Weather Live. And thank you for watching. Make sure you stay tuned for Fox 4 News at 4.
Fox 4 is here for you.